Well, I'm raging, honestly. I'm done. I am absolutely, utterly done with the doctors. So I rang back and said to them, is there no way anybody can speak to me earlier than 8 days' time? So I have a doctor call me and he says, yeah, what's the problem? So I said, well, have you read my notes? He said, yeah. So I knew he hadn't. So I said, well, what are you going to do about it then? He says, what do you want me to do about it? I said, sorry. He says, well, what do you want me to do? I said, have you actually read what's happened to me and what I'm trying to sort out? Anyway, cut long story short, he was gap listening through the whole conversation. And he turned around and said, well, if you're refusing to take the drugs that we're supplying you. I said, at what stage have I told you I'm refusing the drugs? The drugs nearly killed me. He said, we're only giving you tablets to try and sort out the pain. I said, yeah, and when I've told you that I've been overdosed, you're just bypassing it and telling me there's nothing else you can do for me. What do you want me, what do I want you to do for me? I just lost it with him. I just said to him, honestly, I said, I'm sick to death of fighting for my health. I said, all I do is argue with you. I'm drained of it. I said, I'm on my knees. I said, and I fight to stay alive. I said, it's ridiculous. So now he's agreed to give me the patches. But they don't want to because it costs too much money. It's all to do with money. They don't care about our health. And when I said to him, I might as well not be here, he didn't even batter an eyelid. I mean, that's a doctor. Somebody basically saying they don't want to be here anymore. I wouldn't do anything stupid. I'm not that way at all. I wouldn't. But they should have taken that seriously. I'm just done with it. And I just fed up with fighting. You fight for everything in this country. We never used to be like this. We never had to literally fight to stay alive in this country now. That's what we're doing.
Hey, am I the only one that feels like sometimes the system we work in keeps our patients sick? As a nurse, we want to help, but that system can still leave us feeling pretty powerless sometimes. I used to feel stuck. No matter how hard I worked, like our system just wasn't built to truly help them heal. I always wanted to do more. I felt powerless. I was afraid to speak up, sometimes because I needed my job, and sometimes it was because I got heavy retaliation. And all this is changing now because I found a way to create some financial freedom. Now I'm in a position to help people at work, in my community, and I can actually advocate for what's right, regardless of what happens to my income or my job. And it's giving me the power to truly make a difference. Y'all comment change if you're ready to create some freedom and actually make an impact.
So I was going to go back to my regular homesteading duck videos. However, I have received an outpouring of messages and comments about Canadians experiencing struggles that I think are really important to share. I am hyper aware of the fact that presently, and for a very limited time, there are people visiting my profile, and it would be very hypocritical of me to ask politicians and corporations to make change if I'm not willing to use my platform right now for the greater good, and that is to share those stories. So the story I want to share today is an individual from Alberta. They have been struggling immensely, and they have reached out to their premier and a number of other politicians through a very well-written letter that they've shared with me, and have heard nothing back. So I am going to share their story today. However, I do want to caveat this by saying it is not going to be verbatim, and the reason for that is because there's personal information that has been entrusted to me that I don't believe should be shared with the general public. So this individual is a 49-year-old from Alberta. They have been diagnosed with 3 chronic illnesses, which leaves them unable to work. Presently, they're also unable to get AISH because you require specialist appointments, and they're on wait lists for those specialists. This individual receives $960 a month in unemployment and was forced to move 7 hours from their home community and their home supports in order to be able to find affordable housing. Even with that money, 750 of it goes to their regular monthly bills that they have to pay to keep a roof over their head, which leaves $200 a month for groceries. This results in this individual having to make food choices that require them to go without meat, fresh fruit, and fresh vegetables on a regular basis. A direct quote from this person is, "I was a vibrant and happy person, and everything has changed. I should want to live, but I don't. I am barely surviving. I want my Canada back." I want your Canada back too. I want our Canada back too. And I don't feel like affordable food and housing is an outrageous ask. I'm hoping, again, idealistic maybe, that we can all band together and share these stories in the hopes that together we can create positive change. With that said, if you have a story that you want shared, if you want somebody to hear your struggle, I will hear it and I will share it while I have this little window of time where people are looking at my profile. Stay strong, folks.
I woke up with excruciating ear pain called urgent care, and they said it's $319 out of pocket. And I have no words. I have no words. That's more than my car payment. The healthcare needs to change because that is ridiculous. I will be living with this ear pain until it either goes away or becomes bad enough that I have to do something because I'm not paying. I'm not paying
Council, you want to know the real amazing part about this? I posted on this from back in the Morningstar days, back in Cali days. That was years ago. Now imagine just how far this technology has reached. They claimed back then that the heart doesn't fully function properly. Imagine how far they've gotten in the past years, fam, since this came out. And remember, they already had this technology before they showed it to you. All this 3D printing is reverse engineered technology, once again, from before the flood. They found it, dug it up, all the blueprints, all the leftover machinery, cleaned them up, and figured out how to work it. They've just gotten to the point now where they fully figured out a lot of the found technology, and this is one of them. And again, family, this is how the Cabbage Patch Kids were created from the very start. They were 3D printed. I want you to understand that the Cabbage Patch is another word for the laboratory. And they used all kinds of genetic means to create these creatures. 3D printing, robotics, cloning, all kinds of magic and science. And remember, magic is science that you just don't understand yet. This is how they created the homunculi. This is how they created the golems. You read stories about these things in ancient mythology and you think it's just make-believe. It's not. It's just myth and legend. All myth and legend lie in truth. You understand me? Again, there's nothing new under the sun. And what you're looking at going on in the background is the 3D printing of products. Fam, they've been doing this from the beginning. They never needed you to make anything in any factory. We have always had this light-based technology. We can literally print food. They're called replicators in Star Trek. They don't need you for anything. The reason for the way the system is set up is to keep you in mental slavery so that they can keep feeding on you. The physical slavery is to keep you in a particular pattern that creates a habit, and those habits keep you tethered to Babylon. You understand me? It's all for slavery. They don't need us to do anything because the technology to create whatever we want exists in our minds. And not only in our minds, but right out here in the quantum field, the mind of God. All you have to do is tap in and create but they stole your creation power from you and give it back to you in the form of these machines outside yourself. They can't do the things we can do, so they actually need those machines. Just like the fallen, they had to use those machines to recreate the powers they lost when they fell. We still have these powers to create and to manifest. There's no such thing as scarcity. It's all a lie. And there is nothing new under the sun. Everything is everything. So move accordingly. Let's go. Bang, bang. Yeah.
Doctors in the United States are not meant to heal us. They are merely just salesmen. How many times have you gone to the doctor where they've sat you down and walked you through your issues versus just prescribing you a bunch of medication? Because they profit off of that medication. They profit off of you being medicated and continuing to get refills. Because if they healed you entirely, you wouldn't be coming back for more visits. The copays, the medications, the treatments, everything. It's all sales. They're not healing us. It is purely business on their end. Think about how much less money they would make if they just gave us a solution right away and then we never had to come back. The healthcare system in America is completely messed up because it's just created for us to keep coming back and leaning on them over and over and over. I just think the entire thing is so messed up.
I've been reflecting a lot on my series about how the world views the US, and one of the main themes that I keep hearing over and over again is that people all around the world recognize that the American healthcare system is broken. Let me give you my own personal insight into what this looks like. I had to get new health insurance last year, and I scheduled an appointment with a new doctor because I had to get all new doctors. I scheduled an appointment with a new doctor in March of this year, and that appointment got canceled and rescheduled to July of this year, and that appointment got canceled and rescheduled to August. And today I learned that that appointment got canceled and rescheduled till October. So if you're counting, that's 7 months. That's 7 months that I have to wait to see a doctor. I can afford to pay out of pocket. Not everybody can. Many Americans think socialized medicine is a joke. Tell me what you think.
It's almost bittersweet to see a headline like this because sometimes I feel like I am talking to a wall. They all follow similar playbooks. Let's look at what they did in 2020. They furloughed staff. They cut benefits. They cut annual raises, and they expected to be able to retain staff. Hospitals have been relying on lean staffing models to ensure profit margins for decades. Examples of the impacts of these harmful practices of putting profits over patients can be seen here. Like the nurse that was at a Washington State hospital who was overwhelmed enough to have to call 911 dispatchers to allow for the fire department to help care for patients. Or how patients are simply forced to stay on stretchers and gurneys in the emergency room because there's simply not enough staff on inpatient units to be able to safely care for these patients, all due to these harmful, exploitative practices that have driven away a workforce. One of the solutions for Ascension is to replace nursing aides with robots. Instead of spending money on people, nursing aides, and sitters, we're using robots to watch patients. Nurses cite patients who may have already been disoriented, feeling confused and scared of the disembodied voices coming from these telesitters. Hospitals will do anything but value healthcare workers and their expertise, their knowledge, and their skills. As their profits soar, patients continue to suffer.
This is going to be a long video, but it's a little bit of an update and a big vent about the medical care I'm receiving right now and my health. I had a seizure in March of last year, and I'm currently being evaluated for epilepsy. The quickest I was able to get into a neurologist near me was in June. I had my seizure in March. I went to see her, my nurse practitioner, in June. I get there, she tells me that I need an EEG to evaluate for epilepsy, but she said the EEG might not catch anything. You have to have a seizure while hooked up to it. So be prepared for that to happen, but it doesn't mean you don't have epilepsy. And this is all where the crap started. I wait for my EEG, which is in August. I waited a full 3 months for this appointment for my EEG. I get a call 2 days before my EEG is scheduled to tell me, hey, your doctor actually wants to do a longer EEG and we don't have time for that on the day that you're coming in. We need to reschedule you so we can do a longer one. And I'm annoyed, but I'm grateful that my doctor wants to do a more in-depth one. So I say, okay. I end up having to wait another month to go in for that EEG. Not terrible. But when I get there, the EEG is the same exact time as the original one. So somebody either messed up or they lied. So that was really frustrating. Lo and behold, my EEG came back fine because I didn't have a seizure while hooked up to it. So in my original appointment in June, my doctor also said, I want you to see the head physician in the neuro department. She's an epilepsy specialist. I need you to go see her. She's going to know more than I can. So I say, great, okay, I can do that. I ask when the next available appointment is to see the specialist, and it's in October. Keep in mind, it's June at the time of me scheduling this appointment, early June. So I have to wait 4 months to see the specialist. A couple days before my appointment, and when I say a couple, I mean 2 days before my appointment with the specialist, I get a call from the doctor's office to tell me my specialist's schedule has changed, and I now need to reschedule my appointment with her. So I say, okay, this is really frustrating. This is the second time you guys have done this to me with rescheduling. When is her next appointment? It's in March of 2025. It's October when they call me for this, 2 days before my original appointment. So I say, that's just not going to work. It's just not, because now I have waited almost a year for this appointment if I go in March. And they said, sorry, not much we can do. We can get you an appointment with your original nurse practitioner in December, the end of December, which is 2 months away at the time of me having this call. And I said, that literally doesn't even make sense. She told me that she could not help me best, and she referred me out to this doctor. So why would I go back to her? She told me to go to this doctor. And they said, sorry, not much we can do unless you want the March appointment. So I said, might as well schedule with my original NP so I have someone to see. And they would not schedule me for both. So they said, okay, we'll schedule you for the NP instead of the specialist. Sure. Fast forward to today. I was told at my June appointment that my nurse practitioner was going to set me up with a sleep specialist. And quote unquote, she said, I'm going to send you to my sleep girl. She's amazing. She's going to be helping you because I have sleep issues that I'm dealing with, and my possible epilepsy might be tied in with sleep issues. And she gave me this whole conversation of start melatonin, start this supplement, start this, do this XYZ. She gave me printouts, and she was like, I'm giving you all of this now so that by the time you see the sleep specialist, you have all of this done already, and you can just skip this step when you get there. So there was an in-depth conversation about seeing the sleep specialist. And I only had 2 appointments that were made at the time in June with the epilepsy specialist and with one other doctor who I assumed was a sleep specialist because that's what I was prepped on the whole appointment. Today I get a call from the sleep specialist's office to say, hey, do you still want this appointment? This doctor is not a sleep specialist. She's a migraine specialist. I said, what are you talking about? My nurse practitioner set me up with 2 appointments, one with an epilepsy specialist and one with a sleep specialist. They said, no, she can't even treat you for sleep. This is not what she does. So do you still want to come in? I obviously said no. And I said, can you transfer me to someone who is a sleep specialist? Because I thought I've had an appointment in sleep medicine this entire time. Long story short, I get transferred there, and they say, would you like to make an appointment? I said, yes. And they said, okay, our next appointment is May of 2025. I said, so you're telling me I have been waiting since June of 2024 for this appointment that I was told was a sleep medicine doctor, and now I really won't get my appointment until May of 2025. Are you for real? And I was told I'd be put on a cancellation list and blah, blah, blah. I know it's not the front desk's fault. I know. But, I mean, come on. And to wrap all of this up, March of this year is when I had my first seizure. And in a year's time, in over a year, the only thing that I will have had done is an hour EEG. That caught nothing. That's the progress I've made in a year until I see my doctors again. And I don't know how this is possible. I just don't. So, anyways, thanks for listening.
Y'all, I just had my first super frustrating interaction with a doctor since I found out I had lupus. And it wasn't even for me. It was for my daughter, her pediatrician. I have been seeing this pediatrician since my oldest daughter was born. I've always loved her. I have a completely different outlook on her now. When I found out I had lupus and started looking into it and doing all the research and figuring all the different things out, I realized that my middle daughter could be headed down a not good path. Her face, see my butterfly rash? Her butterfly rash is way worse than mine. Hers is so much more prominent than mine. And she has sores in the corners of her mouth all the time. She has scars built up in the corners of her mouth because the corners are always raw. Mine used to do that 3 or 4 years ago constantly. Then it transitioned into blisters in my mouth, and that's where I'm at currently, is I have blisters in my mouth all the time. She also has the bumps and stuff that are on her face right here. She has them on the backs of her arms, the backs of her legs. She has them everywhere. If you look up pictures of a lupus rash, that is what they look like. Her doctor, though, completely dismissed us today. Asked me where I heard that those bumps were associated with lupus, because they were not. I had to then explain to her from my rheumatologist. She told me that they were some type of skin irritation. She's giving her some type of fungal cream to put on them. And then her response was, if the fungal cream doesn't work, then we'll try a steroid cream. If that doesn't work, then we'll try something different. Or we could get to the root of the problem. Let's try that. Can we try that? She then said, I mean, we can do blood work, but even if her ANA comes back positive, that doesn't mean she has lupus. I thought that's exactly what that meant. Anyways, I'm not a doctor, so I can't comment on that. But even if studies show you are predisposed to lupus if you have family members that have lupus. You are also, studies show, predisposed to lupus if you have ever had mono in your life, which my daughter has both of those. She had mono when she was 3. I have lupus and my mother has lupus. Why would you not start looking into it? I left that appointment so freaking mad. She talked to me like I was fishing for something, like I was grasping at straws. I was told this, that when I started down this journey of figuring this out, that I was going to get really frustrated with doctors. And I'm learning that. I just want to get ahead of her problems so that we know what we're dealing with her, so that we can make her have a great life and not feel like I have felt lately. So, needless to say, we're in the market for a new doctor.
Hi, yeah, I've been like really sick for like 5 years, and my symptoms are like getting progressively worse to the point where like I can't go into work in person or drive a car or walk down the stairs or take a shower, just the normal simple things. And I was just wondering if I could like maybe get a little bit of help. Yeah, have you considered that it's in your head and there's not actually anything wrong with you? I have considered that as an option, yes. Although the test results, blood pressure, haven't lied thus far. It would be helpful to get maybe a diagnosis, maybe some medication that might help. Have you considered like fucking all the way off? All the way off.
So today's story is about myself and why I'm currently in the Scarborough Hospital watching my son hooked up to tubes. So what turned out to be a simple tooth extraction turned out to be a horror story for me and my family. So I went to dental care in Brentwood, Chaguanas, right? Simple tooth extraction, everything went well according to them, right? 3 days after the extraction, my son's face started to swell on his cheek and on his temple. When we went back to dental care, they said that it was just normal swelling from the procedure, right? They checked him out, normal swelling, they said. The next day we went back, they told us we will have to go to a doctor. So I went to St. Augustine Medical, right? They said that he had an abscess in his cheek and the swelling in his head was a simple lymph node. So my son had to go through 3 rounds of liquid antibiotics in St. Augustine Medical, right? And he had to go on further antibiotics when he came off of the 3 rounds, right? So it was a lot on him. So me and my family, we planned a vacation to Tobago. So on arriving to Tobago, the next day, when we were at our resort, my son started to get a lot of pain in his head, and the swelling in his head started to drop. On going to Scarborough Hospital, we found out that the swelling in his cheek was an abscess, and the swelling in his head was also an abscess, and it had to be drained. So you telling me why I have to come quite to Tobago to get proper medical advice for my son, right? I paid my money. I went to St. Augustine Medical, private, and they didn't study the swelling in his head, right? They said that it was a simple lymph node. They didn't even check. I paid my money. I went private, right? We all know what people they say about public. I have a little cash. I spend my money on my son. Went private. Gone to Tobago to find out that the lymph node was an abscess, and my son was about to be septic. Right now, I'm currently in Tobago, right? And I don't know how to feel about this whole situation, because it's my son. This is my firstborn son. Why can't we get proper medical advice in Trinidad, right? Why everything always has to be so rushed, especially when you spend your money? I am angry. I am fuming, but I have to stay strong for my son. So my advice to you all is be careful. Even when you get one opinion, even if you spend your money and get an opinion, go and get another opinion, because something is wrong with the medical practices in Trinidad and Tobago. Something is seriously wrong, and you're angry the wrong person. But I have to stay strong for my son right now, and I'll keep you all informed. I'll keep you all informed on what went on, or what is going on. Peace and love.
Put a finger down if your husband started having really bad back pain and so you went to the doctor and they just told him to stretch and go to physical therapy, and it ended up being a tumor that could paralyze him.
Take a seat. My name's Dr. Arthur, and how can I help you today? Nice to meet you. So you'll have seen from my GP notes that... So just to stop you there, so I actually don't have access to your GP notes. Oh, well, it seems like it would be quite helpful for you to have access to them, but anyway. Yeah, no, it would be very, very helpful. So just start from the beginning and we'll go from there. Sorry to interrupt. It's 2024. Are my notes still pen and paper in hospital? Yeah, no, pen and paper is the system that we still use. All your notes actually will be in paper form. Some of it's digitalised, but it's not actually kind of alphabeticalised, if that makes sense. So it's very hard to find stuff. So what we'll do, write it in paper, put in your paper notes, that goes into storage, and then that's kind of how we access all your health information from a hospital point of view. That's crazy. You would have thought in this day and age, all your notes would kind of just be on one digital system where it was in chronological order from, I suppose, first to most recent. You had a past medical history, diagnoses, previous kind of significant investigation results, maybe even like medication history, as well as allergies, things like that, all in one place that every healthcare professional can access, not kind of just certain aspects. But anyway, sorry, I'm going on. Yeah, no, you would have thought it'd be digitalised, but no, it's sneaky.